Hi folks, for those of you who are fans of my videos, you'll recall that a couple years ago I got a Russian blue kitten and I named him Chessie after the Chessie system, of course. It seemed an appropriate name. And when I got Chessie, I decided that I should augment my fleet with some more Chessie system trains because at the time I really didn't have that much Chessie system stuff in my collection. Well, Chessie the cat is now about 2.5 years old. He's doing great and looking great. And since I got Chessie, I'm happy to say that I have added quite a few Chessie system trains to my collection, and what you're seeing here is the latest addition. This is the brand new 3-rail O-scale Chessie system NW-2 switcher and calf unit from MTH, and we're going to check them out today on Eric's Trains. So before we get into the MTH model that we have here, let's go over a little bit of history on the real NW-2. The NW-2 was a diesel switcher locomotive built by the Electromotive division of General Motors, or EMD, from February 1939 until December of 1949. By the end of its production run, well over 1,100 NW-2s were manufactured. The NW-2 had a BB truck arrangement, which means that each truck has 2 axles, and it was powered by a 12-cylinder Model 567 and later a Model 567A engine, which produced 1,000 horsepower. Now, if you're wondering where the name NW-2 comes from, the N originally stood for 900 horsepower, which was the horsepower rating of the NW-2's predecessor, the NW-1. Of course, the NW-2 produced 1,000 horsepower instead of 900, but it was descended from the NW-1, and so they kept the N in there anyway. The W indicated that the locomotive had a welded frame, and this distinguished it from previous locomotives which had cast steel frames. And then, of course, the 2 in NW-2 was there because this was the second model in the NW series of locomotives. Now, from time to time, along with the NW-2 switcher, you would find this cabless booster unit riding behind it. These were called calf units, calf as in a baby cow. And when the NW-2 and a calf unit rode together, it was called a cow and calf setup. So you had the mother cow up front and then the calf riding behind the cow. And the purpose of the calf unit was simple, of course. It provided a boost to the cow unit in order to help out in heavy switching situations where you needed a little more horsepower. During the production run of the NW-2, there were several of these cow and calf sets produced, and they were given the designation TR, and there were 3 TR variations over the years. The original TR cow and calf sets were produced prior to World War II, and then the TR2 and TR3 sets were produced after the war. The B&O, which is the road name that we have here, operated a couple of TR3 cow and calf sets. Alright, so now that you've got some history on the real NW-2 and calf unit, let's talk about the MTH models that we have here. Now, the latest renditions of the NW-2 and calf unit were made available in MTH's 2018 Volume 2 catalog, and these items started arriving in stores in March of 2019. For the 2018 Volume 2 catalog, MTH made the NW-2 and the calf units available in 5 different road names. There's Chessie system like we have here, but there's also Atlantic Coastline, Maryland and Pennsylvania, New York, Ontario, and Western, and Reading. Now, the NW-2 itself and the calf unit are sold separately. This is not a combined set, so you can buy one or the other or both. It's entirely up to you. Now, the nice thing about these models is that these are scale models. They're O-scale, but they're not MTH Premier Line, they're Rail King. And because these are Rail King scale, it means that you get very nicely detailed scale models for very reasonable prices. The retail price on the NW-2 itself is right at $350, and the retail price on the unpowered calf unit back here is $170. So again, very reasonable prices for very nicely detailed scale models. Let's go over some stats on these models. The length of the NW-2 is just over 11 3/4 inches. The calf unit is just a hair shorter. It's just a little over 11 1/2 inches. The weight of the NW-2 is right at 4 pounds. The weight of the calf unit is 3 pounds 1 ounce. The pulling power for the NW-2 is 1 pound 4 ounces, and of course the calf unit has no pulling numbers because it's unpowered. And the minimum curve needed for each of these items is 0.27, so that means you can run these on basically any O gauge layout out there. On the inside of the NW-2, you'll find 2 vertically mounted flywheel motors, one above each truck, and then there's the electronics for ProtoSound 3.0 with MTH's digital command system, or DCS. This engine also has DCC on board, although with a 3-rail model, that typically doesn't come into play. And then on the NW-2, there is no fan-driven smoke unit. You know, most O-scale engines these days do have smoke units, but the small Rail King switchers do not. When it comes time to run the NW-2, you've got a few options available to you. Of course, the preferred method is to use MTH's Digital Command System, or DCS, as that will give you access to all of the engine's advanced features and functions. However, you can also run this engine conventionally with just a transformer and some track. And as I said before, this engine does have DCC on board, although again, with a 3-rail model, that typically doesn't come into play, but it is there. As we move in closer, here we have the front of the NW-2, and things look pretty good up here. We've got this nice add-on plastic plow piece that's packed with the engine when you buy it. You can add it, you can leave it off, it's entirely up to you. I went ahead and added mine. And then we've got the proto coupler here in the middle that you can throw from the DCS remote or the DCS app. And then we've got these really nice looking metal handrails on the front and the back of the NW-2, and they're on the calf unit as well. And we've also got safety tread on all the walkways of the NW-2 and the calf unit. I'm not sure if you can see it from this angle, but they're there and you'll probably see it later. One thing you're going to see a lot of on this model is the presence of details that are either molded into the plastic or cast into the metal, as opposed to separately applied add-on detail parts. So for example, on the pilot down here, the MU hoses and the coupler cut bar back here are cast into the die-cast metal pilot, and then this vent work up here is molded into the plastic body. And these things are done as cost-saving measures, but that's okay because this is an MTH Rail King model, and Rail King is a budget-friendly product line. And so by having fewer intricate add-on detail parts, it brings the cost of production down, and it's the reason that the retail price on this switcher is $350 rather than $450. So the thing to keep in mind whenever you buy a Rail King scale model is that yes, you are getting a very affordable scale model, but it does come at the cost of some of the extra add-on details that you might get with a more expensive model. But of course, if you want more details and you don't mind spending a little more money, you can always move up to MTH's Premier product line, although to my knowledge, they've never made the NW-2 in the Premier product line. In fact, they've kept most of their diesel switchers in the Rail King product line over the years. There's only been a handful of Premier line diesel switchers that I know of. Anyway, as we move around the corner and look down the side of the NW-2, you can see we've got a nice painted Chessie system logo. We've got some molded in details on the side of the body. We do have an add-on handrail going down the length of the body, which is nice. And then down below that, we've got die-cast metal trucks and a die-cast metal fuel tank. On the cab area, you can see the nice crisp B&O and the cab number, and then below that, there's a legible builder's plate. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos for a while know that it's not often that I criticize a model, and there's a reason for that. It's because I like to promote the hobby, and I figure the best way to do that is to stay positive and to try to focus on the negative as little as possible, if at all. But in this case, I really do need to point something out. If you look at the logo on the switcher here, and especially the cat logo, you'll notice that there are some gaps in the paint that correspond to some of the details that are molded into the plastic body. And I don't know what this is all about. It looks a little bit sloppy, so I'm going to assume this is a mistake of some sort. And it's not just this logo on this side of the switcher. The other side has it as well as the logos on the calf unit. So there was definitely something up with the printing when they printed the logo on this model. Maybe there was something going on at the factory that day, maybe the guy doing the printing was new, or maybe the piece of equipment that they used to do the printing is having some sort of an issue, but I did want to point this out. Now, before you guys start saying it's the end of the world and the sky is falling, I also want to point out that paint issues like this are exceptionally rare with MTH models. I have been buying MTH models since 2004, and in that time, I've probably bought hundreds of MTH models, and I can probably count on one hand the number of times that there's been a paint issue on an MTH model. In fact, flawless paint jobs is one of the things that MTH is known for. So I don't know what happened here, but I did want to point it out. So what am I going to do about this? Well, there are basically 5 things I could do about it. I could do nothing and just accept it. I could contact MTH and see if they can rectify the situation. I could go to my train store and maybe return or exchange the model. I could try to repair it myself by purchasing some paint, maybe from Minuteman Models in Chessie system colors, and trying to fill in the gaps. Or I could do what I'm actually going to do, and that is to weather this model. I was going to weather this model anyway, and so when I weather it, it'll completely hide that, and it won't be a big deal at all. You know, switchers are prime candidates for weathering because they're not on the road promoting the railroad. They're in the yard doing hard work, and they get really dirty and really nasty, and so it's always fun to weather a switcher. And so this is going to be weathered at some point, so I'm not too worried about this. But again, I did want to point it out because I know some people do worry about stuff like that. Anyway, moving on, inside the cab, you can't see it very well, but there are 2 hand-painted crew figures in there. And then on the back of the NW-2, we've got another proto-coupler down there on the pilot. We've got some more of those nice orange metal handrails and their safety tread on the walkways. The windows on the back all have clear plastic inserts. They don't have add-on wipers, but they do have wipers that are molded into the clear plastic windows. And then there's also an operating backup light up top. The top of the NW-2 is very modestly decorated. We've got some molded in vent work here. We've got a nice little add-on bell. There are 2 exhaust stacks, and then back here we've got an add-on metal horn. Here's a quick look at the underside of the NW-2. We've got 4 pickup rollers, 2 per truck. That is excellent. That means we've got great electrical contact on that center rail so that even when you go over a switch and you hit dead spots in the track, you won't have any issues. All of the axles on this engine are driven, and on the 2 inner axles there are 2 traction tires for a total of 4. The speaker for the sound system is right here in the middle, and then under this front truck, I'm not sure if you can see it, but right there is the master volume control. Alright, now let's check out the unpowered CAF unit that I bought to accompany the NW-2. Now the CAF unit is very similar, if not identical in many ways, to the NW-2 that you've already seen, because it basically is the same. The only real difference is that it doesn't have a cab. But everything down here is die-cast metal. Many of the details up here are similar, if not identical, to what you've already seen. On each end of the CAF unit, there's an operating coupler. However, they are not proto-couplers. You can't fire them remotely, and that's because this is a non-powered unit. However, on the inside of the CAF unit, there is a single light bulb to illuminate the backup light on the rear of the CAF unit, which is a nice touch. But just to show you how long MTH has been making this model, if you take the shell off of the CAF unit, you can see that that light is not an LED light. It's just a good old-fashioned incandescent light bulb. It's kind of cool. And here's a look at the underside of the CAF unit. It looks very similar to the NW-2, just no sound system or motorized elements. But look, once again, we have 4 pickup rollers, 2 per truck, and all of that just for that one light bulb up in the CAF unit. That's great. Alright, the last thing we're going to do before we start this thing up is BF-IMO, best feature in my opinion. Well, because this is a Rail King model, and Rail King models are not super fancy, I really don't have some cutting-edge cool feature to pick for BF-IMO, so instead, I'm actually going to pick reliability and dependability as this model's best feature. You know, I ran this engine at this year's open house, and I ran it for about 4 hours straight, and it had 0 problems the entire time. It ran great. But that in itself is not a reason to pick reliability as the best feature. There are lots of reliable trains out there. The reason why I'm picking it is because this is a budget-friendly model, and yet it still has rock-solid dependability. And that's the great thing about MTH. It really doesn't matter what product line you buy from. They make a consistent product across the board. So whether you buy Rail King or Premier Line or Standard Gauge or HO or whatever, they are all consistently good products because on the inside they use the same high quality components. You know, on these budget-friendly models, they make it affordable by cutting down on some of the external fancy details, not by cutting down what's on the inside. On the inside, this has the same high-quality Protosound 3 system that you'd find in a really expensive Premier line model. And so because of that, you can buy a budget-friendly model like this and still get rock-solid dependability. All right, now comes the fun part. Let's go ahead and start this thing up.
Is she ready to go?
Okay, real quick, here's the horn. And here's the bell.
Check that oil level.
And you just heard a sampling of the Crew Talk sounds. You'll hear more in a minute when we do the PFA sequence. Anyway, let's go ahead and roll it out. Alright, that about wraps it up for this review. As you've seen, this cow and calf set is great, looks great, sounds great, runs great. Now, for those of you interested in purchasing one of these, regardless of which road name you get, they're all the same price, and the price is really nice. As I said before, because this is Rail King, you get a scale model at a very affordable price. The price on the NW-2 switcher itself is right at $350, and the retail price on the calf unit is right at $170. And those are retail prices. If you go through a good MTH dealer, you should be able to get a little bit of a discount off those retail prices. And as always, if you're looking for a good MTH dealer, try my favorite train store, which is Legacy Station. You can find them on the web at www.legacystation.com or give them a call at 770-339-7780. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And when you do subscribe, make sure you click that little bell icon next to the subscribe link so that you get notifications from YouTube whenever I publish a new video. And at this point, I'd like to put a big thank you out there to all of my Patreon supporters. If you're a Patreon supporter, you get early access to videos, you get behind-the-scenes videos and so forth when they're available, and I'll also be doing some giveaways to Patreon supporters in the future. And as always, first-class supporters on Patreon get their names listed at the end of every Eric's Trains video while they're a supporter. You'll see that list in just a minute. Now, if you'd like to support Eric's Trains through Patreon, you can do that by going to www.patreon.com/ericstrains. And once again, thank you so much to the people who are currently supporting me on Patreon. Your support means the world to me. And then finally, if you'd like to buy an Eric's Trains t-shirt or anything else I might sell, you can do that at the Eric's Trains online store at www.ericstrains.com/store. Anyway, that's about it for now. I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time. Hi folks, for those of you who are fans of my videos, you'll recall. Alright, so now that you know a little bit of the history of the real NW-2, let's talk about the... forgot where I was at. Going in for a closer look, here we have a look at the front of the NW-2. I think I just said look twice, that's not good. Going in for a closer look, here we have the front of the NW-2, and things look pretty good up here. We've got this optional plow piece that's packed separately with the engine. So that takes care of the NW-2. Now let's check out the Now, of course, at this point, I'm sure that some people are going to jump right down to the comment section of this video and start bad-mouthing MTH with all sorts of silly comments like, oh, I'm never buying MTH again, and how dare they do this, and this is completely unacceptable, and oh, it's because it's made in China, and so on and so on. And you know, if it makes you happy to make nasty comments on YouTube, I guess go ahead and do it. But as for me, I don't let stuff like this bother me. You know, I'm going to weather the switcher and the calf unit anyway, and in the end, they're going to look fantastic. But if you do buy one of these models, and it does happen to have some sort of a paint issue, well, take it back to the train store and return it or exchange it, or contact MTH and see if they can help you. But above all, remember to take a deep breath and know that it's going to be okay.